Hi, Andrea Richmond here to talk about QR codes in the classroom. So before this assignment, I didn't know the difference between a QR code and a barcode. I had seen QR codes out in the world, but didn't really have much exposure to them. And what I learned in my research is that a QR code is able to handle a lot more information than just a barcode. So a barcode was basically used for tracking items as its main purpose, but QR codes can track items. It can also identify items. It can also track time. It can manage documents, and of course you can use them for general marketing. So much more information can be held within a QR code. So QR codes in the classroom. As a science teacher, I think these are a brilliant idea. They weren't really, when I was teaching, they didn't exist. So if I was to go back to teaching, I would definitely use QR codes. One thing that a QR code can do is you can set it up kind of as a hall pass for your students. And that would be able to track when they come in and out of your classroom. They could scan in and scan out, and you would know exactly how long they were gone, how many times they leave your classroom and come back. I mean, I think this would be especially useful at the high school level, teaching, biology or chemistry class in high school. At the middle school level, where I taught the most, it would be a valuable tool in that you could give students a code. And I think it would be motivational for them to get some handouts this way, or assignments, or even like what they're supposed to do when they initially come into a classroom to get them settled in. Like for a bell ringer, you could give them a QR code. They could, of course, use the QR reader, their iPad, and go ahead and do their bell ringer assignment as they come in and record it right there on their iPad and then submit it to me, and there wouldn't be any papers being handed in or anything like that. The second thing that I would think these barcodes or these QR codes would be valuable for would be, of course, for investigations, to make learning stations within your classroom that don't take up a lot of space. I mean, we already have, when we have materials in science, beakers, graduated cylinders, and all those science hardware, so to speak, that you need, scales, whatever materials you're using, they take up the space. To be paperless and to just have a one-by-one code at each station, giving directions, having follow-up materials, having end of investigation discussion questions. So as soon as I learned about this, I went back to my old teaching stuff, because of course I have, like a typical teacher, I have file boxes full of papers and just different materials that I've used when I was in the classroom. And so I go right to one particular experiment that we did on water investigation and the properties of water. And so I had these laminate cards, and then of course at one point I had them on 8.5 by 11, and I have some of my notes here, which I'm sure I have this on a PowerPoint somewhere in a computer. And then I have the actual experiment that I derived the cards from at one point. And we have the properties of water worksheet. I have images from the internet. I have fun facts about water that came from the internet. Then I have an extension activity, which you can make a water molecule and eat it. Whether you would do it, we would do it in the classroom, but you don't want to do it while you're at the actual lab space, because we don't want to mix things that we eat and do it at a lab station in the classroom. That would be something maybe that they could take home and do for homework. or enjoy at home as an extension activity. And then, of course, we have another image. Now, what I learned about these barcodes, QR codes, is that all this stuff, everything you see here, could just be embedded into one 2x2 or 1x1 square, and it would eliminate a lot of paperwork. There would be none of this sitting around. It would all be embedded in their iPads in a link. I could print out the initial, of course, QR code at the station, but then everything from there would the student would go ahead and complete all the other additional assignments and ideas that go along with exploring the properties of water on their iPad. And they can't lose it. Nobody can lose their homework. Nobody can lose the extension activities. Nobody can lose the images that are fun to look at, that help, embed some, information into their curious minds. So I think a QR code is the way to go. Makes me want to get back in the classroom and have iPads and come to the new world that we have that's so full of technology and different cool things that we're able to get us from point A to point B with less paper and sounds like more fun. And I think the whole concept of the QR code is motivational in itself, and having, of course, the right materials behind it, embedded in it, is half the battle. But that's really a teacher-based thing and a curriculum-based concept, and often unique to each class that you're teaching. So I think I would definitely enjoy using QR codes in the classroom. So I would recommend them. I think if you can get yourself a QR code generator, I learned about that, best QR code generators. I have a list of them here. I printed them off the internet. Kaiwa, of course, QR Code Monkey. You want to keep, I guess, one of the pieces of advice is keep your codes simple so you know that they'll work. And, of course, test them to make sure they work before you print them out and put them in a more permanent spot, or where you put them temporarily when you have lab stations. So make sure they work, and I'm sure it would be a whole lot of fun for kids. I've really enjoyed, looking into QR codes. I'm sure there's more to learn about them, but at this point, that's how I see I could use them in my classroom. Have a good one. Talk to you later. Bye.